at some point in the offseason, I think there's a player that has a decent possibility of getting cut or traded that could come back.
We'll start with this question from Robin.
So there's still a damn good defense. I have zero problem with them bringing this guy in.
All right, welcome back to the Buffalo Plus channel presented by Connors and Ferris. Mike Catalana, I am Jenna Cottrell. Dan Fates with a veteran day off. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share. And welcome to our latest episode of You Ask, We Answer, presented by Stellar Roofing, Windows, and Siding. We're going to take a little bit, some of your questions. We're going to talk it all out. A lot of questions on a little bit of special teams, any roster players, the guys in the bubble that we expect. Tyler Bass talk as well makes things interesting.
And I've got a hot take for you on a player that I think could find his way back to Buffalo.
Mike has not told me this hot take yet, so we will all be learning this together. I want to start with a question that is bigger picture. It is from Tommy D. O'Hopskley, 768. Do you guys think McDermott and Bean will ever be on the hot seat? It seems to me Terry loves both of them, and they will always have jobs here, no matter what happens. Your take on that?
That is big picture.
That is very much zoomed out.
I would never say never because, I mean, Bill Belichick got fired with New England with 6 rings. Okay, it's a lot of things going on with Bill.
He
these
said
days.
it was mutual.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, but you never know. No, I would never say never because things happen in the NFL, right? Not in the near future with both of them for different reasons. I guess one of them could always decide they wanted to leave, right? I mean, listen, both of them would have jobs in 5 minutes.
Correct.
If they were out. Okay. I also want to establish something here. I really like Brandon Beane, and I think he's a very good general manager.
Yeah.
There's just a lot of wild stuff going around, and we did a video this week about the whole idea of the draft pick and the conversation on WGR, which has gotten so blown out of proportion for what was actually said and not said. We had one of the comments that said maybe Brandon was just, it's a long weekend. He's a little cranky, gets up, hears some of this stuff, and boom, goes into it. Yeah.
I could see that.
I could relate to that. Totally understand it. He hears something he doesn't like, doesn't want to hear anymore. He's got some receipts about last year.
Yeah.
The wide receiver room performed ahead of let's be honest, performed ahead of what he thought.
Yeah.
Because he went out and tried to trade for Amari Cooper and gave up a 3rd-round pick for him, and Cooper didn't do much. So I think Beane's done a really good job. Is it perfect? No. Same with Sean McDermott.
Yeah.
I like Sean McDermott too. We criticize a lot of things that he does.
Yeah, and a lot of fans also criticize.
Yes. So we've heard from some people. And listen, to answer that question, at some point, sure, it could happen. Like, this team has been really good, very successful. But man, they are flying close to the sun here. You are so close to getting it done.
Yeah.
But it adds pressure to both of them. So could something at some point happen? But the question was phrased the right way because they both report to Terry.
Yeah. And I do think Terry and the Pegula family does have a lot of love for both of them as well. But this is the NFL. And I think for as secure as it seems their jobs are in Western New York, to say, will they ever be on the hot seat? You hope and you think that if the Bills continue to keep building, keep getting long playoff runs, hopefully February playoff runs, hopefully Super Bowl Lombardi trophies in Western New York, that will help keep the group together. But in terms of ever being on the hot seat, I think what that would mean is the Bills are continuing to fail. And you hope that's not the case.
Yeah. But they're failing. Like, it is tough to do what they're doing. And believe me, I lived through a team, and some of you did too, that went to the Super Bowl 4 straight years.
That to me is so, I can't even imagine that.
And won none of them. So it was so difficult to come back.
Yeah.
By the way, they got there's a job to do next year because Kansas City could equal that.
Yeah.
With 4 in a row. But that aside, I think it's tough to do what they're doing because, listen, San Francisco took a step back. I follow the Eagles. They won a Super Bowl. Then they were in the playoffs. Then they took a dive. Then the coach got fired. Then they came back and they won a Super Bowl. And then they fell apart again. And then they came back again. So it has been really up and down with very high highs.
Yeah.
To do what Bean and McDermott have done, obviously with Josh Allen, to keep winning the division, keep knocking at that door is very difficult. If they have one of those years where it falls apart for one reason or another for a year, then you start looking at things like that.
But even that, I think it would take multiple years.
Yes. But I think that at least opens the door a little bit.
Yes.
But hey, the goal is history and hiring coaches.
Honestly, yeah. I mean, yeah, you could say.
Yeah. They're pretty pleased with the coach and the GM that they have in Buffalo. I just wanted to make the point about criticism. It's not like we think we know more football than Brandon Bean and Sean McDermott.
No.
But all of you guys sit at home. Sean goes for it on 4th down. You're screaming, you're an idiot, right?
Yeah.
Because it didn't work, or they ran the ball too much, or Joe Brady doesn't know what he's doing at all. Because it's football. We all have an opinion, even though these people have way more knowledge and experience in the game. Doesn't mean they don't make mistakes. So that argument, I don't love that argument.
The results are just so much more instant.
Oh, for the coach?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it plays out so much faster. The one thing I will say, and we don't need to beat a dead horse, my point was, and I think it got lost kind of in everything, was just 2 things can be true. And I know a lot of you make fun of me for saying that.
I love that phrase. I've stolen it and not credited you with other people.
But I mean, I didn't come up with the phrase.
Well,
I just
you did
think there's 2 things can be true, that they did need to fix the defense. And I'm not sitting here and saying that they didn't need to do a massive overhaul. I completely agree with that. I just also think it would have been really nice to add a wide receiver at some point. I think rounds 3 to 6 would have been nice. That would have been what I was asking for. So that is all I'm saying. Yes. We don't have to say anything else about it.
Hey, my mock draft, I had them taking 1 wide receiver and 8 defensive players.
Yeah, like I expected them to go defense heavy.
Yeah.
I wanted them to do that because that has proven to be a point in the playoffs. But to say that that is the only goal of the draft, I think we can have a discussion about how it is important and it is cost effective to add guys to the draft. Because if you get a top tier wide receiver, that costs more money than I think the Bills would be willing to pay at this point. And you're also in Josh Allen's prime. Like you want to maximize, you've invested a lot of money in that. Don't you want to maximize the amount of impact he can have as well? And also fix the defense.
Yeah. And by the way, you said that about receivers. I'm looking for a receiver. I think Khalil Shakir, he impressed me so much this past year.
He's my dude.
He's your dude. You were the one all over saying he's going to be the guy.
Yeah.
His numbers were good, 800 plus yards.
Yeah.
I think with the right amount of help around him at the wide receiver position. And look, I hope it's Curtis Samuel this year. He's the guy I really liked.
Yeah.
I hope Keon comes back.
You picked him.
Yeah. Come on, Curtis, let's go. Year 2.
That's right. I forgot.
I hope Keon comes back better, healthy, all those things. Kincaid's back. All this is great. I think Shakir can become their version of a number 1 guy. It doesn't mean it's 1,500 yards and 14 touchdowns. It just means the guy they depend on. And I think his numbers can go up. He's going to need some help around him, though, at the wide receiver position. So that's everything.
And I was about to be so petty.
Go ahead.
And they drafted him in
the 5th round.
In the 5th round.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yep. All right. We're going to continue on. Yep. I can hear the keyboards a going. Okay. All right. So this is the next question. It's from Eel1378, and it kind of goes in tandem with Thanos at Thanos Go 13. Which returning players are on the roster bubble? I have a hard time seeing Trubisky coming back, Codrington, Lewis, Trey White, Logue, Hamlin all seem like possibilities to me. And then Thanos go, what current players do you feel like are at risk of being cut? So I feel like these are kind of roster bubble and being cut, is there a guy that kind of jumps out to you?
First of all, you're the Greek. You should know how to pronounce that.
That's like Marvel.
Oh, okay.
I'm not as versed in that. I'm dipping the toe in, but
okay.
I'm not.
Listen,
It's Thanos also.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
All right. When you say who's in danger of being cut, I mean, I think honestly, they brought DeMar back. I think if they would have drafted a safety,
yes, yeah,
that might have been different. I think they like DeMar. He plays teams. I think he's one of those guys that sticks. I do look around, a guy like Jamarcus Ingram, who they like, but they drafted 2 corners. They signed Trey White.
mm-hmm.
Now, again, Rasul Douglas left, but at least we think he's gone. Like he hasn't signed with anybody.
Number 31 is now Max Hairston. So
yes, he has his number. And they also brought back Dane Jackson at corner. So in that case, but those are young guys, quite honestly, might, even if they did move on, might end up on the practice squad. Like that's the way that kind of goes. I do wonder about AJ Epinesa. And I like AJ. I like it. I think he is a good football player. Did not get the pass rush that they needed. I think because Michael Hoyt is suspended, excuse me, and Vaughn is gone. I know they brought other guys in. I don't really think AJ's going anywhere, but I think if Hoyt was around to start the year, I don't know what happens with AJ in the last year of his contract. I think he's the kind of guy that he's going to need to play well to earn his spot.
Do you think he could be a trade candidate?
Yeah, I think he's one of those guys during camp. They make a move depending on the needs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Those suspensions are really, I won't say troublesome because it's
cumbersome.
Yes, because, those guys are there. And they will be back. And somebody's like, that's great. You get them back in 6 weeks. You have no idea what happens in that 6 weeks in terms of injury and trying to bring other players in. So I don't know. Do you have other guys? Because they've already moved on from some other players that were free agents, like Austin Johnson and guys like that, that I think they've opened themselves up that way.
I mean, to me, like Trubisky is interesting to look at because they have Mike White still in the roster. And I think Trubisky is very close with Josh. And so I think that plays a factor, but also I don't have a ton of confidence in him. And I do think that Mike White is a little bit more, what's the word I'm looking for?
I think he
has some moxie.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm curious with, will that relationship between the Bills and Mitch Trubisky kind of turn in another direction? Trey White, I mean, they brought him in a 1-year deal. They brought in Dane, like we talked about. I think they obviously drafted a lot of corners as well. With Trey White, I guess we need to see what he looks like and how he is in terms of his health. And if he's a guy that could be out there.
He would have to be shot.
Yeah, it would have to be pretty dire situation.
And I don't think they believe that's the case. I think they believe he can help them right away. I think Dane Jackson maybe is in more of that spot. Obviously, they have more of an investment.
Yeah.
Even with Trey, it's funny. He has 2 salary cap hits this year from his cut.
Yeah. Wow.
So he's like 2 different players on the roster. No, I think Trey starts out as the starter, even though they won't say it until they see.
And I think that's a way to also ensure that you are not like, it's the NFL. You have to earn your starting role, all that stuff, and also take maybe a little bit of pressure. Now, look, I would expect Max Hairston as a first-round pick to get meaningful playing time in year 1. But how early on that is, I don't know. You would hope it's very early on because he's just that much of a stud that they're like, we got to get this guy on the field.
Sometimes they say it. I don't know if they will say it, but they are rooting for him to be the starter.
Absolutely. Yeah.
To earn that right to be the starter.
Yeah. Right out the gate. Because again, it's the NFL is a meritocracy. And
I love when you're using my phrases, and I'm going to use one of yours here because
we are around each other.
You
way too
say,
much.
Don't pay attention to what they say, pay attention to what they do.
Mm-hmm.
So like running back's a good example. Let's just assume James Cook is back and playing. He's going to need to. I don't know what kind of mess that could be. It could be none at all. He could come back, play his way through the year, and then we see. But they didn't draft a running back.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
They didn't draft a linebacker.
Excuse me. That is something I was kind of surprised by.
I was a little bit too.
And this actually brings up a great point. At Penn's Creek saying, CB got better, D-line got better. What about linebacker depth? I would rather not see Balin Spector play again.
I was not a fan of him on the field. First of all, he gets hurt a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how much faith, for a lot of reasons. It felt like they kept thinking he was going to be better, and I just don't think it was. I don't know. If Milano is healthy and Dorian Williams, you got that. Could they be in the market at some point for a veteran? I
mean, Balin Spector was also a 7th round pick.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's like,
hey, Buffalo Joe played special teams and he can be a backup.
Yeah. So at linebacker, they have Joe Andreessen, Terrell Bernard, Matt Milano, Balin Spector, Eddie Ulofoshio, and Dorian Williams.
It'll be interesting with Ulofoshio because he was injured too. And I don't know, not in the building, what they think. There are guys, they come in, they like them to a point, but players a lot of times come back like a different guy too.
Yeah.
And healthy and understanding the defense a little bit more. So we will see, but there's still tweaks to the roster, but that is a spot. I was a little bit surprised they didn't draft somebody.
Yeah, I definitely thought so too, especially with what they did to Matt Milano's deal.
Not that I'm questioning the draft.
But what they did with Matt Milano's deal, essentially negating the final year, it appears that they would like to be in a position to move on next season.
And what are they doing with Dorian Williams?
That's a great question.
Because this is what happens as guys are waiting. Like that contract keeps moving.
Yeah.
So it's just a question. So.
Yeah. Ooh, I gotta sneeze.
Well, I'm over here coughing. Bless you.
I've never sneezed on air before. Wow. Okay. All right, let's go to the next question. So I mentioned it earlier, definitely some special teams questions. I'm going to start with this one, and I'm going to just tweak the end of it a little bit because I think we'll address this later on. But Hollywood Paladin 4021 says, who out of the newest Bills do you think will be capable of making a meaningful impact? He put on special teams on day one, but I'm going to say just overall, who is a newest guy that you think would make a meaningful impact on day one?
Well, look, you expect the top picks, right?
Yes, that's the hope.
The one guy I got right in my mock draft, Dorian Strong. And I actually said in the draft that I thought his measurables looked like a guy that could convert to safety. I don't think that's in their mind at all. I think they look at him as a outside boundary corner, press man kind of guy.
Yeah.
That I've listened to some people post-draft be really high on Dorian Strong.
Yeah. Almost feels like that kind of Kaiir Elam, Christian Benford. Not saying we don't know if that's the same situation, but it kind of felt like that vibe of a guy, Dorian Strong, being seemingly a Bills pick.
Yeah.
Like just with his intangibles, his production, the way he goes about playing the game, things like that.
It would be great for the Bills if they were both Christian Benfords.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And listen, listen, I think Hairston has a chance to be really good and a dynamic player. But if you hit on a guy like Dorian Strong, just by his skill set, it does also lend itself a little bit to this thought that this team will play more man coverages this year.
Yeah.
I think that's a league-wide thing too. I think you are seeing more and more teams try to play press man. And while we talk about pressure, and that's great, sometimes that press man coverage changes what an offense does. Mm-hmm. I think if you can play it well, it can really impact the timing of certain offenses, the Dolphins being one of them that you go against. And it's just more of a mindset that they would do. So let's see. But I liked him coming out. I like that they got him. And let's see if he has that kind of impact.
Yeah, I've talked about him before, but my favorite pick was Landon Jackson, edge guy out of Arkansas. I just think 6'6". They talk about him not having great bend.
Yeah.
I'm not going to sit here and say that I crunched every tape ever of his, but I just see a guy that has a really high motor.
Right.
And just, it seems like he has got a lot in his tool belt. So that's someone I'm excited. And I mean, they've obviously thrown a ton of resources at the D line in this draft. So I would like to see a couple of those guys obviously pan out, if not all of them. But Landon Jackson to me just seemed like a guy that felt like a Bill in terms of when they drafted him, and the skill set to me, I think could be really, really pop in Buffalo.
And look, as you're mentioning there, we are talking about defensive line. We talk about this all the time with the rotation that goes on. Guys are going to get opportunities, and you show yourself, you're going to play. And Bosa is a good signing, a guy who has been at a high end. I don't think they're going to want to run him out there 50 plays a game.
I agree.
So they're going to want to get the best out of what he does the best.
Yes.
I love the fact that, like with Landon Jackson, his teammates called him a dog. Obviously, is good. Called him crazy.
The crazy thing to me is, it's funny.
Yeah, and he's a worker. He's all those things, and he's big. Like he comes across a little bit lanky, but you watch his movements. It's an odd mix to me. Like you see him, he's big, rangy, but I like the way he moves in short spaces when you watch him. And I think that's why he has been productive in his college career.
I also do think like making a meaningful impact. I'm not expecting him to like light the world on fire. Like, I don't think he's going to be like, oh my God, in terms of production, just like far and away the best guy in the edge grouping. But I do think that he will make an impact. You hope, again, because of how much has been put on the D line and retooling things.
Yeah.
But he was someone that I really liked, and he was funny after his getting drafted Zoom. He's like, I got my wife, I got my dog. His dog's name is Honey.
Oh, well, you love that.
I was to say, I love that.
Yeah.
So I was like, he's like, I got that. I got my wife, my dog, and I love football, and that's all I care about. I was like, okay.
I was going to say something stupid. Like he calls his dog Honey. Calls what?
Oh my God. You're insane.
I'm sure. Yeah.
I wonder how he spells honey.
Probably like you.
Yeah. I spell it Hunnie.
Now his is
Honey.
Honey.
Yeah. That's my guess. I think it's a doodle or some sort, something like that.
That's kind of funny.
Isn't it?
It's kind of funny that this 6'6" behemoth of a guy is this little doodle named Honey.
I think that's so cute. Oh, yeah, that's true. Okay. So let's go to the next question. This is from Jeremy Spencer, 3374. How do you guys feel about the change in special teams with no coaching? And will the Bills rise up the ranks this year after last year's low special teams ranks? Chris Tabor,
yes, new special teams coach. Listen, Smiley was a good dude. He was
a micro golden doodle, Honey.
How small of a dog?
I don't know.
Well, when they start out with micro.
Okay, now I'm going to Google this.
Okay, while I pontificate here. Look, the problem with the Bills special teams is they were disorganized. I mean, the end of a game with 9 players on the field.
That is a cute dog. That is a cute dog. Really I don't know, like not really small. Okay. Like I don't know, probably like 30 pounds. Sorry, I'm going to get so many targeted ads and Zach's going to be so mad. Okay, sorry. We died.
They were disorganized. I mean, they had issues on teams. And, they weren't ready for a fake kick. Like there were multiple things. And this is where, it is a difficult job, but look, that's the job. Like there's changes, guys are injured, players in and out. Your job's got to be ready for that. I think Chris Tabor has a lot of experience in this league, coaching special teams. I think they wanted that button down. I also think Sean McDermott made the point, and I think some of these draft picks will come into play or other players I think they want to get back to a couple of guys who are more dedicated special teamers. I think they used to be that way, very heavy into the special teams role, specific role. Listen, a guy's got to be able to play usually, and then teams is the additional thing. But when a guy like Matt Collins comes in and is effective on special teams, still playing 60-some% of the snaps.
Big juice guy, yeah.
Yeah. I wish he was still there.
I was just thinking in my head, wow, I think the Bills are really going to miss Matt Collins. in a way that who would have thought a year ago we would have said that. But
the personality, all that stuff, great. I think they miss him as a wide receiver and as a special teams
that's
guy.
what I'm saying. Like all three.
Yeah.
Like just what he added, and on the field, off the field, everybody eats, like all that mantra, all that stuff. And you're right. He was a phenomenal player on special teams, and the physicality that he brought, he really did set the tone. So we'll have to wait and see and talk to Chris Tabor and just see what the vibe will be for special teams this year. But I do agree. I think the Bills for a long time were very like, these are our teams guys. They kind of got away from that, but I expect them to get back into that. Okay. At Bobby HZ5530 says, is Tyler Bass still on the hot seat?
No.
I agree with you. I do not think he is on the hot seat.
What do they have? 3 punters right now?
Because they have, let me look it up. So they have Jake Camarda and Brad Robbins currently on the roster.
So 2 punters, but only 1 kicker.
Yes. Are you okay?
Yes.
Okay.
No, I don't think he's on the hot seat.
I agree.
I mean, he's a kicker. You could always get back on it.
Going into last season, absolutely on the hot seat. We talked a lot about having confidence in him and what Tyler Bass would look like, especially after that miss kick against the Chiefs. But I think he did enough in this last season to kind of quell some of those concerns. And I think he can be a guy that, went through the trials and tribulations, is now on the other side. And he seemed like he did get his confidence back. And I think a part of last season was feeling out the yips a little bit, but then kind of correcting course and getting back on track.
Made every kick in the playoffs, right?
And like that's pressure's on, all that stuff. So I don't think that Tyler Bass is a storyline and a narrative and a guy that we're going to watch going into this.
And
season.
I think in the long term, it helps him to have had that.
Yeah, I agree.
Stretch.
Battle tested.
And he did. He fought back.
Yeah.
And I give him a lot of credit for that.
No, absolutely. I agree. Is there anything else you want to touch on?
You want my player?
Oh, yeah. I forgot about your hot take. Dan's not here. We got to make sure we
listen,
keep
the Bills
same
are, I know we've talked a lot about wide receivers. The Bills are still in the market, right? Because from Cleveland,
Elijah
Moore in for a visit. We'll see where that goes. Sometimes these things end up, sometimes they turn around, they sign him the next day. Sometimes they wait it out and they see what happens. I'm not talking about today or tomorrow. I'm talking about at some point in the offseason. I think there's a player that has a decent possibility of getting cut or traded that could come back.
Who? Oh, Gabe Davis. Yeah, you talk about Jacksonville and what they did. He looks like he's the odd man out.
Like they have receivers. Okay, first of all.
Wow. Oh my God.
So I was listening to a reporter from Jacksonville talking about Gabe could be odd man out. Now, based on the contract and all, I think he's a difficult guy to trade. I think sometimes it ends up being where they just have to
eat it.
Can you not? This is just me. I think a lot of positives between the Bills and Gabe, even going out the door. He left. He got paid. Have at it. This is what it was. I'm just throwing this out there. He is a guy that has shown he can get down the field and catch the ball, right? Even though it wasn't always perfect. But you know how much teams like to, if they can, especially the Bills, there's a lot of guys who come back for a second tour of duty.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
I am just putting that out there.
Hold on. I'm going to put on my Dan Fates hat. No.
Listen, if you're bringing him in as another guy.
Here's a guy. Interesting. I think it would be too cost. I don't think it would work out well in terms of that.
Oh, no. I'm saying as if he's cut. So if he's cut, then that's on them, and then the Bills sign him to a deal.
No, I'm saying for the Jags, I think it's the cost would be too high.
They may need to do it.
The debt, like the cap hit would. Oh, okay, yeah, I don't know. We'll see. you think Amari Cooper comes back? I'll add a lot of people in my mentions asking that.
I mean, that's always possible. Doesn't feel like it.
Saw some reports saying that he might go back to the Cowboys.
I could see that.
I could see that as
well.
I don't
think did Dallas. I don't know if they drafted a wide receiver.
I don't know off the top.
He was really good for the Cowboys. That's a few years ago.
Yeah.
It still is odd to me that it didn't work with the Bills. I think he's a pro as a receiver. I think he works hard. You would think he and Josh would make it work. It is funny. You had Devontae Adams with the Jets. You had Hopkins with the Chiefs. Yeah. And you had Amari Cooper with the Bills. 3 pro wide receivers. It didn't work for any of them.
Yeah.
Different
You're
reasons,
right.
I guess.
It's pretty perplexing, though, considering
both
the body
had
of
early
work.
touchdowns.
Yeah.
Like Hopkins had 2 in a Monday night game, and they went out of their minds that this was going to reinvent the league. And they never really did anything. By the end, he was doing nothing.
Yeah.
And Adams with the whole Rodgers thing, that was bad. And doesn't mean he still can't play because where'd he go? Out west? Chargers? No, where'd Devontae Adams go?
I thought he went to
Rams. Did he go to Rams? I should know that. So could it be Amari Cooper?
Rams.
Yeah. Boy, him on the Rams. Because because it's Puka and him. Well, it's a pretty good combination.
Yeah, I would say so. Interesting. Yeah. I would be more surprised than not if they brought back Amari.
I would be too.
But that's who is to say what they will do. I do expect them to add a receiver, if not more, at some point, because they continually add.
Yes.
At every position.
Well, other teams too. It's like you sit here and think like, oh my God, where are they going? And then we know from the Bills, like a guy like Rasul Douglas is out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
If another team is sitting there going, we need a veteran corner, and especially if you play a lot of zone, Rasul could be your guy. This guy's started a lot of games in the league, and he's played pretty well.
I'm picturing the guy who injured Aaron Rodgers.
Oh, Leonard Floyd.
Leonard Floyd. They didn't sign him till the summer.
No, he went back to it. He went to Atlanta. He's from down there.
Yeah, like
he'll get 10 sacks again, make $10 million.
But I'm saying a guy like that, like there is the possibility of adding someone that can be impactful.
Yeah.
It's just usually guys that have the market for it have already signed by a certain point.
And some of them, like Leonard Floyd, I'm surprised he signed quick, but like sometimes I think they're like, I don't really want to do any of this mini camp stuff. I'll show up later.
That's fine. If I'm a veteran, I don't blame guys.
Oh, you would definitely be that kind of veteran.
How rude.
You would be like, yeah, I'll show up later.
Yeah. I mean, you're not wrong. Depends on what is happening in my life.
Do we break the news that I broke here about Gabe to Dan?
No, let's
wait to see if he hears it. He'll listen.
He'll listen.
Oh, he listens. He listens to everything.
Yeah, he'll hear it.
Yeah.
And then we'll get the caps lock text message for sure. All right. Thank you so much for joining us here on this edition of You Ask, We Answer, presented by Stellar Roofing, Windows, and Siding. For Mike Catalana and Dan Fates, who has a veteran day off, I'm Jenna Cottrell. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share. We always appreciate it. You know how much we love you all. So thank you for tuning in. That'll do it here on Buffalo Plus, presented by Connors and Ferris. We'll start with this question from Robin.
So there's still a damn good defense. I have zero problem with them bringing this guy in.